Hey, what's up, guys? This is GaryOak of Base Trade TV coming at you once again with vlog number 4, I'd say. I'm actually awake this time, and my eyes won't be three-quarters of the way closed, unlike last time, because I was really stupid, really bad at managing my time, and I kind of didn't really get around to doing my vlog until, I don't know, midnight, 1 o'clock in the morning, which is fairly late for me. I don't quite operate on nerd time, and I'm actually trying to go back to a better sleep schedule because I've been sleeping in until like 9:30, 10 o'clock in the morning, and I'd really prefer 8:30 a.m. starts, if not 8 a.m. 8 a.m. is like that golden zone that I actually had for a few months before I kind of broke down and started staying up later and later. It was when I moved here, actually, because I've only been living in this specific building right here for uh it's been over 2 months now. Time really flies. Since before then I was living with my folks, and it's kind of hard to acclimate. Well, not hard, but it's just different because there's never anybody else around the house, and you've got to cook all your own meals. So if you're too lazy to cook dinner, then you're gonna go hungry. No one's gonna cook it for you. So actually, it's one of those times where it's about 28 as I am recording this, and I haven't eaten for a few hours. So I'm gonna fry up some burgers as soon as I'm done here. So I don't really have too many interesting interest. Wow, that was a terrible nerd list right there. No, I don't have too many interesting things to say this vlog, but MLG Dallas is coming up, and someone else from Base Trade TV, Penguin, is actually going to be competing in that. I honestly hope, despite all of his, no whammies, fingers crossed kind of stuff, that he lands Rain in the first round of the open bracket and just gets completely pulverized. It would be funny. He's probably going to be mad when he hears that I've said that, but him and we troll each other all the time. So it's all good. Seriously though, I hope he does pretty well. And I don't know. I think he's had some pretty strong showings in his local tournaments. But the last time he was at MLG, he played a couple really strong Zerg players and lost in Zerg versus Zergs. I think he had to play Vibe once, if I'm not mistaken. It's been a few months, and I never got to watch any of his matches because they're all open bracket stuff. And yeah, speaking of Rain, I'm very disappointed about the whole scheduling thing with GSL that every time one of their premier players in Code S decide to go play in MLG, GSL actually changed their schedule to conform around that, but for some reason, the decision to send Rain wasn't made known to MLG wasn't made known to GOM until right before, and it was so close that they couldn't actually reschedule the match. So he was forced to forfeit, and I'm pretty disappointed because I honestly thought he had a really good chance of winning last season after his first couple rounds. So I was like, well, I know he's good, but I don't think he'll win. And then when I saw him in his first couple rounds, I'm like, this guy actually has a really good shot. And I actually picked him to beat MVP, and I was almost right. So it's really disappointing to see him not even in contention for this season in Code S. Some people really have some ideas about is there some Kespa related foul play involved, and I know Mott on Team Liquid actually wrote an article that GSL kind of strong armed Kespa into having all the Kespa players play in the first place by saying, well, if you're going to pull your Kespa players out of GSL for the this season and the next, like until 2013 or whatever it was, then we're going to pull all of our ESF players out of OSL, which was literally half of their tournament. And I need to correct myself because if anyone actually does watch these vlogs, they'll be correcting me if they actually know what they're talking about and say it's not GOM. GOM has nothing to do with it, and that's completely right. It's ESF, the Esports Federation, not GOM TV. I just instinctively say GOM because all the ESF players are mainly featured on GOM TV, even though they're completely independent organizations. So Sorry about that. And the whole theory that Kespa kind of did some foul play there to kind of get their best player out of the GSL for one season to kind of get back at GOM. That's like I think that is a rumor going around, and I haven't looked into it enough to take one side either way. But it's just an interesting thing to think about whether there might actually be something going on behind the scenes because there's always something going on behind the scenes in anything. It doesn't matter what it is, how big or how small. So I guarantee something happened behind the scenes, but we don't know what, and we probably won't know what for a long time, if ever. So all we can really do is speculate. It is very strange that I have a really hard time believing that SK Telecom and Kespa didn't want to send Rain to MLG until like the literal last second, like the day before his Code S match. I just find that very strange in terms of timing, just very, very strange. Because it doesn't make sense from a tournament perspective. I mean, I think if you get second in ML or in GSL, you get a comparable amount to what you'd win at MLG Dallas. I think Dallas's first prize is 25 grand and GSL second place is like 20 something and first place is what, like almost 50? Yeah, I think it's 20 grand for second and 50 grand for first, give or take, because of conversion. But yeah, I'm pretty sure it's 50 million won, 20 million won. So yeah, all you have to do is make the finals of GSL, and you pretty much get what you'd earn for winning an MLG. And they're completely different animals. I understand why Rain would go there, and I really think you should go there, and I really hope he does well. And he actually probably has a good chance of winning MLG. It depends on the type of player he is. But I don't think it's really worth sacrificing your entire GSL Code S seed, especially since you're the defending OSL champion. You won't have OSL until next year, so you don't have to worry about practicing for like 50 million tournaments. There's no team league going on right now, so he doesn't even have to worry about pro league matches, and the Kespa teams aren't in GSL yet, so there's no GSTL to worry about for them. All he has is the premier tournament, so without GSL Code S, all he has to worry about is Code A, and that's a pretty big risk because anything can happen in the first round of Code A, and if you fall out, you're suddenly in Code B. He's very capable, like more than capable, of just crushing all three Code A rounds, no matter who he faces, and advancing back into Code S next season, not a big deal. And even if he does fall, he should have no trouble clearing through his Code B bracket. But again, anything can happen. You get unlucky once or twice, or they just hit you with something completely stupid that you're not expecting, and you just happen to lose because people of vastly inferior skill can steal a best of three, or you might be going up against like the next Yerg Banjwa and Code B or Code A or something, and just get knocked out by that next up and comer guy, or some really top notch pro that shouldn't be there but is for some reason because of getting unlucky in Code S, like having a bad day. And that's the thing. You can have a bad day. And if Rain has like one bad day in Code A round of 48, he's gone. And he has to roll the dice with the up and with the with Code B, and that's always terrible. There's like look at Younghwa. That guy's gotten he had two consecutive all kills in Team League and he can't even get out of Code B for crying out loud. So there's some pretty ridiculous people in Code B. For MLG, it's I'm just trying to think about who would win. It's pretty tough. There's a lot of ridiculous players there. And with MLG, anything can happen. And the thing is, MLG and GSL are completely different tournaments. Some players are actually only good if they have a long time to prepare for their matches. I think that's a more traditional Brood War sense, where in Brood War, sometimes players would have an entire week or two to prepare for one game. And some players just happen to rely on that, or some people just can't on the fly start adapting. Like look at MC. That guy can just like some players like MC I think can just adapt really quickly and do really well in these gauntlet type tournaments where you don't know who you're going to face until like 30 minutes before the match. You don't have time to practice, no time to prepare, and you just have to kind of go in there and you don't even know what maps you'll be playing on, so you just have to be good. at adapting to this, that, and the other. And some players excel in tournaments like those and just flounder in, you know, tournaments like GSL where you and your opponent have an entire week to study each other and prepare. So that's why it's really almost impossible to call an MLG and say, oh, this player will win. Yeah, you can always do that with the great players. Like you can say that about, like Rain or whoever is in there. Just insert big name player here that's playing an MLG that's recently won something or recently gotten close to winning something, and you can say he has a chance. And that's quite true. I mean, we saw MVP do that. We saw him kind of waltz into an MLG and just take the whole thing. And I think we saw Bomber do that. And this is back when, Bomber was ridiculous and people expected Bomber to always do really well. And this is right back when MVP was doing really well. I think he was coming off a GSL championship going for his second in a row. And that's when he ended up not getting a second in a row. He lost to MMA in the final. I think that was it. My timeline might be a bit wrong. And then MMA kind of came out of nowhere and won that tournament and then got all the way to the Super Tournament finals before losing. So you really don't know who's going to do well and who's not going to do well, is what I've said a bunch of times. I'm probably repeating myself a lot. But MLG can offer some nice surprises. New stars are born, and sometimes someone can do really well in an MLG, get invited to GSL, and just completely flop because they're either A, not used to Korea, or B, aren't at all acclimated to the type of tournament GSL is. So to say one tournament's harder than the other, it's tough because they both test you in different ways. GSL spans typically 2 months, and it's you play less games in the span of 2 months than an MLG where you play, if you win, you play a ton of games in 3 days with little to no practice time. You just do overall practice. So you have to practice kind of catch all everything. Like yeah, you'd prepare a little bit for certain players if you think like oh, Rain's going to be there. He's going to be this huge threat, and that means I got to prepare some builds. If I have to happen to face Rain, I need to hopefully steal a game off him with this really good build I picked for like Antigua Shipyard. But apart from that, you can't. I don't think you can really prepare. Although I haven't. I'm not a pro gamer myself, and a pro gamer would be able to tell you a lot better than me. But this is just assumptions because it's impossible to prepare for everybody in that tournament. Yeah, you'd be able to prepare for some of the people in pool play because or not pool play, but seeded players or invited players. There's like 22 invited players, I believe, which they start really high up in the brackets. So if you're one of those bracket players, you can prepare for other bracket players. But beyond that, it's kind of a crapshoot. So I'm looking forward to MLG. Should be a fun event. I plan on watching all of it or almost all of it. Um, as for base trade, I believe we're still doing Zotac EU and Zotac NA on that weekend. So I'm not sure who's casting those actually. I think they're still up. Who knows? I may even get drafted into casting the NA event on Friday. I have absolutely no clue what's going on. So it's basically whatever Rifkin says. He's like, "Oh, I need someone to cast this, and if you're available, then go ahead and do it." So that pretty much wraps this up for this vlog. Sorry I'm kind of rambling, but I guess that's the whole point of vlogs anyway. So I'll see you guys at some point next week. Thanks for watching.